Welcome back to another Palm Wine Central in collaboration with Stop Give Me the podcast episode. I am one of your book club panelists. Don't collect it. Got the beautiful ladies today. Maneh, Barbara, Terez. How you guys doing? Hope all is well. Hope all is well. Um, anyways, let's get into it. Today we are deep diving into books that challenge, change, and compel us to think differently. Well, of course, every week we deep dive into, every month we deep dive into, something that challenges us, and all that. But today we're exploring a book that has provoked significant discussion and reflections across countless readers. It is The Bait of Satan by John Beaver. In this powerful and often provocative exploration, Beaver tackles the insidious issues of offense, a trap that ensures, a trap that ensnares many and can destroy relationships, communities, and even our spiritual growth. With a compelling blend of biblical references and personal insights, Beaver argues that the greatest obstacles to harmony and individual progress is not the overt attack, but it's not an overt attack from others, but rather the offenses we harbor within. Since its release, Bait of Satan has challenged readers to look inwards and examine how hidden resentments and unresolved conflicts can detect our lives. Today, we dissect the critical theme of the book, share insights from various perspectives, and discuss how we can apply Beaver's teachings to navigate a life free from bondage of offense or offenses. So whether you're a long-time follower of John Beaver's work or just encountering his teachings for the very first time, like us, uh, join us as we unpack the profound lessons of Bait of Satan that continues to resonate with believers and seekers of personal growth around the world. Uh, let's get into it, shall we? First things first, the Bait of Satan. What did you guys think about the book? The entirety of it, the title, and chapter by chapter as you read it. Tie that to with how the theme of it, offense, right? I should look back into your life to today. What really, just one thing that really struck you. What? How did you feel about it? Money.
I was offended by the book. First of all, I would say that the title is nowhere close to what the book is about, or maybe my interpretation, because, whew, yeah, when I read the title, I was not looking forward to what the book turned out to be. And I actually went through the book twice because the very first time I was reading or listening to have the audio version, the first time I was listening to it, I kept shaking my head. I'm like, no, no, that's not how I understand that. But him using biblical references to explain certain aspects had me like, okay, fine, I guess. But the one point I still struggle with, even though I happen to go, I went to a freedom conference this past weekend, which surprisingly was in total alignment with the book. It's almost like, okay, if I don't want to learn the lesson from this book, then what happens if it is presented in a different environment? So, and it's the aspect of, you know, apologizing to the person who offended you. Now, personally, I don't get easily offended, right? But if it gets to a point where I feel like I need to step away from a situation because I feel like I will not handle it in a positive way, for me, stepping away is safer. Because in order for me to apologize to somebody who I feel like offended me, my thought process is, well, I would want to make you feel the way that you made me feel, or maybe even worse. Then I can apologize to you and be like, oh, did you feel XYZ? I'm sorry. But for me to walk up to somebody and be like, oh, whatever you did made me feel this way. I'm sorry for feeling like, no, that doesn't sit with me. But the whole aspect of, I don't think that I hold grudges. It may take me a day or two, because when I go to sleep and I wake up the next morning, I always wake up with the notion that it's a new day, that bygones be bygones. But I don't know that I would walk up to somebody who offended me and be like, oh, I'm sorry that I responded or I acted in XYZ way because it offended me. So yeah, that particular aspect of the book is what I'm still struggling with.
That's a good way to put it. Barbara, what's your take to that?
I mean, the title of the book, bait. The bait is like trap, right? So when I read the book, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. The trap of Satan. And then when I started reading it, I'm like, oh, I mean, it's a trap of Satan, but it's you. You allowing Satan to use you as a trap for his purposes. So Mr. John Bevere did not come to play. So the book, it does not, it somewhat matches the title, but not, because it allows you to, I think, self-reflect a lot. It forces you to look at yourself inwards and evaluate a couple of things that you do not need to. One of the biggest things, I think, was chapter 2, when they spoke about selfless love, for me, where the agape love versus the filial love, where you love without expectations, when you reach out to people. And so which is just so happened that it's something that I personally, like, I struggle a lot with, a little bit. Like, I'm like, so I've been praying about it a lot, like, teach me how to love that way. And then I think I am. And then when I read the book, it told me that I'm not. I'm doing the opposite of that. It's like you're serving somebody. There's something that he said in there. You're serving the flesh, like you're loving, but you're not. You're serving the flesh. You're not serving according to God, because agape love is you're loving like Christ. I'm not. I'm loving according to the flesh. That was one thing. The second thing is to piggyback back by me. I hold grudges. I am not. I am. I do turn to. I will be like, I forgive you. I will move on, but nah, it's still in my spirit. And so the book practically is like, it was speaking to me when he said that, like, you are actually creating. It's like it's like, as a trap, like Satan has created this little bubble for you and you just fit right inside. And so those were the two things, the chapter 2, the filial love, and that fact that I have to apologize when somebody offends me. And then I'm not allowed to hold that sentiment in me. When I apologize, the apology means you let it go. Move on from it. Don't think about it. You leave it to God, and it is what it is. And that is the part that I still, like, I'm holding on to, and I have to. It's just like a learning. I feel like it was like the Holy Spirit was shining a light. It's like you pray and said, Lord, shine the light in my areas where there's void in it. He was literally shining that light in your area, that, okay, that's one particular part of you I'm gonna need you to work on. So it's interesting.
Terez, what do you think of that? The book, the title of the book, how did it resonate with you? What went through your mind as you were reading, the entire book and, matching out the title?
First, I think the author, he did a good job with not just giving biblical references, right, to what offense is and what we should do with it, but like he put in life examples, real life scenarios in there. And I like that there were different versions of that, right? There were ones where it was required of a person, like Maneh says, to go ask for forgiveness, even when they did do something wrong. There are also scenarios that require people to walk away and then go back years later and make amends. And so there was these different scenarios in the book that played out to show that there's just not one way of giving up offense, right? And then the main thing in the book for me was the reason, I think I understand the reason why it's called the bait of Satan is it looks familiar, right? Because obviously that's what a bait is. A bait should look familiar, otherwise you're not going to take it. And it does so because it's justifiable. Second of all, like you have every reason to hold offense and to want vengeance. But the book goes on to show what that does to you, the offense holder. That is like when you go fishing. I don't know if anybody's gone fishing before, when you put the bait on the hook and the fish gets it. Once you bite, it's a wrap. You cannot bite, right? And that's how it gets us, because you're like, oh, I'm justified in the way I feel. Boom, that's it. It's a slippery slope from there, and then you don't even know it, because again, you look around and it's understandably so why you feel that way. So it just puts things in perspective for me. The entire book, which I don't know, probably I have dealt with offense before, and I can tell you that it was not a pretty thing for me. And I think since I dealt with that, I cannot, I don't have a single grudge bone in my body. I really don't. I have tried. For people who have hurt me, I have said things like, I will burn his car down, I will do this, and I would, but I really don't have that in me. I don't. So it 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 puts things in perspective, I would say that.
Yeah, I agree with you all. The difference for me really is I have a fighting spirit, but mine's a little bit calm because in that I'm very patient. Like I don't necessarily think about it in that, like I can keep it somewhere in my brain and go about my business till it's time for me to bring it back up, and I just let it resurface again, and it's like brand new. So reading it and learning different examples within the book, I mean, especially that part, he was talking about, you know, some pastor that, was trying to find fault in, what he was doing and things like that. And in my mind, I'm like, so you're just sitting and trouble comes and find you, and all of a sudden you're the person who's supposed to go ask for forgiveness. What kind of madness is that? You know what I mean? So, a moment like that, oh, I thrive. I thrive very, very, very well, in things like that. So reading it kind of gave me that perspective of, man, nah, sometimes you just need to chill. And then also too, it's ironic because I'm actually reading the book of Job right now, and I can kind of see, how God told Satan, like, yeah, this is my God. You know what I mean? Go tempt him all you want. And even with that, with all the other, all his other friends coming and saying all these different things, and he's still like staying put, he's not being moved from, his position to believe that, he has for God. So I don't know. It just hit different. But some of the examples were just too much because it kind of took me away from what the message of the book was really, so I'll read and go, then I have to come back again and go, wait, I think I forgot what was said in the previous chapter just because of all the examples or testimonials, within the book. Yeah, so I don't know. Can any of you share any personal experience, that you felt trapped by offense, and how did that affect your relationship with personal growth?
Yeah. The one that okay, why are you laughing? The one that I felt like I was close to probably ending up in jail, right? Before that experience,
And up
because
in you, okay, we got to hear this.
and that's the thing, right? That's the thing. Like when I actually went to therapy for that, because I was like, first of all, I did not know that. Well, I had an idea that certain things could push me to that level, but I had never experienced anything that pushed me to that level. And I don't know which book I read it in. It said something that relationships are meant to teach you about yourself. And last year I had three that really pushed me to actually pass my limit. But this particular one that I felt like would have landed me in jail was okay. So I had a coworker. Um, I met her back in, I think it's 2018 or 19. And then we've worked in different, facilities. I think only two. From 2019 to 2018, then pandemic came. She was laid off. Then she helped me get into a different facility. So this was 2023. So 2022, she was like, oh, she wants to go to Mexico, but she needs company. Now, I've never been to Mexico. And I was like, well, good opportunity. I like traveling, but I don't like planning it. And she's good at it. So she's like, okay, she'll get the flight information, hotel and all that, and I'll just send her the money. Perfect. So we get there. Now she's into alcohol. I seldom drink, and if I do, it's socially. So we get to Mexico, and she's like, "Oh, Mexico has the best liquor. She wants to go take a look at find them." I'm like, "Fine, I'll accompany you." So before we got there, a little things, happened, but I did not think that it would be triggering to her because she's both African American and I'm African, and the way that we present physically is totally different. She puts so much effort into her outer appearance. I roll around with short hair. I could roll out of bed and I'll be fine. But she put so much work. So we're walking the streets and then people are throwing compliments. And to me, I felt like they were throwing it to her because she took time to do that. And someone would throw a compliment and she would answer, and the person would say, oh no, I meant your friend. So it happened like 3 times on the way to getting this liquor. So we get to the liquor store, they pour out 7 different, tasting cups, and they did for both of us. For me, just the smell could knock me off. And I was like, no, I'm not going to try it. So she thought I wasn't trying it because I was pissed at her or something. I don't know. We get back to the hotel, and you can start to feel this tension in the air. And I'm like, okay. So the next day we had to return. I packed my bag, went for a walk, came back. Sis says she's not going back. And then she walked out of the hotel room. Now she has my travel information. I have my passport. Well, we're supposed to go back to go to work the next day. She walks out. I call her. She did not pick up. 10 minutes, the transportation people come in, and they're like, oh, we're ready for you. And I said, well, when am I going back? I go. I don't know how I'm going back because, like I said, I don't have the travel information. I get to the airport. I figure it out. I get to the US at midnight. Now, she has my keys to my car and to my home. Oh, Lord Jesus. I call her. I'm like, how do I get my keys? No response. So I turn around and her car is parked right there. So what crossed my mind was to slash her 4 tires and slash all her windows and feel justified because it's midnight. I don't know how I'm getting home and when I'm going to sleep. Somehow I took a deep breath, made a call. Someone picked me up. So 2 days I did not have my key on my car. So in that moment, I was fuming. She comes back to the US 2 days later, and she's offering me Chick-fil-A and Cold Stone ice cream like nothing happened. Now, I wasn't expecting her to apologize because first of all, she let me admit that she did something wrong. But she's coming by like, let's hold hands and dance kumbaya like nothing happened. So yeah, that was my experience. And for like probably 3 months, one of my coworkers said he's never seen me that pissed, to the point that he would open the Bible and read me Bible verses about forgiveness and all of that. And I was like, I know all about that, right? It's not so much me forgiving her. It's her acting like nothing happened. So I got to a point where I wasn't expecting an apology. I just had to let it go. But yeah, I was fuming. But now I can talk about it without feeling like the rage. But in that moment, I could see myself behind bars in some orange outfit. But I got some school loans to pay. So I was like, I'll breathe and let this pass. So yeah, that was my experience.
So
Girl, you had me at co-worker. As soon as you said co-worker, I was like, yep, it's a wrap.
Oh yeah, I was done. I'm like, I'll forgive you, but this ship, whatever this ship was, is over. I don't have it in me anymore.
the student loans to pay for me. The book discusses how offenses can destroy relationships. You know, you just spoke about that. Um, Terez, can you think of an example in your own personal life, you know, or a public figure where an offense led to a significant consequences? Now let's do your personal life.
Sure. Um, I used to be very angry. I used to be an angry, like when they say uh black, what they call it, angry black woman. I was that. And I wasn't even a woman yet. I was a teenager, but I was so filled with so much anger because I was offended. And then that bred anger and bitterness that spilled over into how I was perceived by everybody else. Right. Um, man, it's sad. I think about it now and I kind of feel ashamed. But sometimes it engulfs you. I didn't even know that that's what that was, right? That it was the offense, because now it's presenting as a different emotion. And I'm telling you, when I say an angry person, I I would go from 0 to 2,000 in a millisecond. I'm not even joking. I would fight. I would. So I was reckless, unhinged. But to me, that's how offense has played in my life, right? It's not so much as the offense itself, it's the fruits that offense bears in your life that destroys the relationship around you. Because whether if you don't deal with it, it's coming out. And it's coming out in other forms that you would not recognize its source. And you would not be able to tell that, oh, it's because I have offense in my heart. And I think that's why, even in the book, sometimes now each person's journey or each scenario is different for how you recover from it, right? And that's why sometimes they'll ask you, maybe you would have that prompting in you to say, go and tell somebody, not necessarily go and tell somebody that you forgive them. And it's really not for them. And you look at it like, I'm giving this person a pass, but it's to heal your own self, to get rid of those fruits that offense has brought in you. Because I've learned this bitter truth in life that you would not always, whoever hurt you is not always going to be the one that heals you. Now, it may not be your fault, but it would be your responsibility. Unfortunately, that's life. And so the sooner we get, it took me a while to get to that point, because that's one of the points in my life where I would never forget. And one of my friends, he's like, Terez, you're angry because you are mad at this person. You need to let it go. I said, hell no, if it takes me to the grave. Because I felt like if I forgave this person, I was giving them a pass. And I was ready to die on that hill. And for long, I was getting tired of being so angry all the time. Like little things would trigger me. I would just snap and I would fight. And I was like, I'm turning into a young woman. Like this is not the move. But I remember that day, I cried my soul out because I felt that it literally took a piece of me to forgive that person. It did, because but it was the price that I had to pay for it. And I mean, gradually, obviously, the fruits don't go overnight, right? Because you've given the forgive, but gradually, over the years, with time, I've been able to manage those emotions and things. So, you know, you get a CB.
Mhm. Yeah. Just to piggyback on, what you were mentioning there, about anger. Growing up, man, like my entire life, most people might have perceived me as an angry kid, and then it got to a point where I used to smoke weed a lot, and it just intensified it. Like it took it from, for example, 25% to 125%, you know what I mean? And it was just hard to kind of parse, emotions, within that time. But when I stopped, then I looked back again, and I was like, whoa, some things that don't even make sense. Why am I so, offended by it? Why put so much energy into it? There was something that he mentioned within the book that you hear a lot during church services, which goes, um, when you bring your gift to the altar and you remember that, you have something against your brother or your sister, leave your gifts in front of the altar and make amends and come back. You know, um, throughout my entire life, man, you keep hearing that. You even go, bro, like, I'm not about to go apologize for nothing. Forget that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna give you this gift. You don't want it, push it to the side. Push it to I've seen priests eat the gifts and they're, they were belly full. So what's the big deal? You know what I mean? So it wasn't necessarily more of the gift, it was more of, you know, actually going and doing the work and saying, hey man, I know that I did something or you did something to offend me. Let's fix this. And pride, man, pride is a thing that I don't know. But once you're able to put that pride to the side and have that communication, um, you set yourself free. Now the biggest challenge is the strain that that amount of time that you guys went without communicating puts from that type of apology, right? Like, but you stand the test of time from then because either the other person is still in resentment mode and you are trying to move on, or you're saying that you're trying to move on, but then you feel like the other person again hasn't really understood, what happened here, and it brings back memories, right? So it's more of, okay, go and apologize or go make amends, but yet also really, really, go down to the roots of it and say, hey, are we really squashing this? Are we really leaving this? I'm moving forward, and not just moving forward, but moving forward on a clean slate. So yeah. But anyways, Barbara, how do you think the concept of bait relates to modern society and, for example, social media? Social media creates a lot of tension within people, brings a lot of strife, things like that. So how do you think bait in itself relates to society and social media?
I mean, bait itself, an entrapment. The definition of bait is you're trying to trap something in. And so when we're talking about religiously, right, we have a lot of people that preach messages on social media, Instagram, Facebook, wherever it is, that you're looking at the translating, you ask yourself, are these people really reading the Bible? Because what you're saying is not matching. It's not, and it causes a lot of confusion, not just among believers, even the non-believers. Like it sends like a immense amount of confusion among people. We see those things every day. They call them clickbaits. Like people will say something very outrageous to get you to look at it. And the funny thing about it is that those baits, it's slowly. It's like you just need to pass little messages, right? It's just little by little, just little, and it builds up something in you that you don't even know that was there. And 2 seconds down the road, you've changed your whole perception about something, and it's like, I got you. And so when you read this book, The Bay of Satan, like the examples he uses, the human examples, like us, when he's like experiences of other people that he uses when he's explaining, it opens up your mind to see how Satan works and how he tries to turn away your things. He uses, the Bible tells us that he will use other people, right, to get to you. He's not gonna do himself. Funny thing about it, AK mentioned the book of Job. chapter 1 in Job tells you when those people stole, I think it's chapter 1 or chapter 2, the Chaldeans and the Chaldeans, that Satan used them. Those people already bore that anger, they already bore that temptation in the heart, and all Satan had to do was just use them. And he does that. This book tells you that he does the exact same thing to people. He just needs to look for something in him and stir it up, and then just sends like a clickbait or something on social media, and then there's going to be something out there that whatever it is you're harboring, that anger or resentment or jealousy, whatever it is you're harboring, is going to fuel that fire. And that's how he clicks you to just stick to that particular point.
Just to elaborate a little bit more again to what you were saying, or let me ask this right. Have you guys, well, in this book, he discusses a lot about people going from church to church.
Oh, yes.
And social media too has a lot to play in that, because like, oh, my pastor's not doing this, your pastor, things like that. Wait, Maneh, please. How let's talk about
on the spot.
Maneh, there's a reason why. There's a reason why that you were put on the spot. So
okay, let me hear it.
I mean, let's just talk about, conviction and condemnation, right? Especially when it comes to social media and also this flipping and flopping of churches and things like that. What really, to you, as you look at, things manifesting in the world or people going about life, especially when it comes to like church, just flipping about, what is the difference between conviction and condemnation, right? Like people say, oh, no, I'm going to go here because of this, or I'm going to go there because of that. No, I'm not going to do this because of this, I'm going to do this because of that. Like, can you share experiences like of conviction and condemnation, especially when it comes to, that?
Well, for me personally, right? Growing up, my dad is Catholic. My mom was Presbyterian, but she converted to Catholic because she wanted to teach in a Catholic school. And in order for her to be able to teach in a Catholic school, she had to be Catholic. So she converted and then she became Catholic. But growing up, we went to either or. If we woke up early, because Catholic church was like 7 a.m. Presbyterian was 9 a.m. So if we woke up early, we went to Catholic church. We woke up late, we went to Presbyterian church. Sometimes we went to both churches in a day because we have friends who were Catholic. We wanted to hang out with friends in Presbyterian church. Then I went to a Baptist boarding school. Then when I left boarding school, I stayed home for like 2 years before I traveled here. My cousin she went to a Pentecostal church. So I have had a little bit of experiences here and there, but what I really connected with to my core is the Catholic Church. And even to this day, I still feel like my base is the Catholic Church, but I have been going through this phase where I felt like I wanted to learn more about the Bible than the Catholic Church offers. And I've literally prayed about it for like 2 years. So, and I think it all started during the pandemic. And I'm feeling like things are aligning so much to the point that it is scary. And I really never shared this out in the open until this book. And the first person I shared it with was Babs. And I was like, oh. So yeah, I'm going to a church that offers more of that Bible study that I've been looking for. But I still identify as a Catholic. But I think that that's because I know I have a fundamental understanding of what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a church building per se. I am looking for, what's the word? Well, I'm not sure how to explain it, but like I said, I want to know more about how the Bible applies to real life. Because to me, I feel like the Catholic Church is too scripted. But this other church which is mostly online, but I do go there in person occasionally, I'm finding that it is aligning with my life. Like this book that we read last weekend, I went to a freedom conference at that church, and they talked about pride, which I did not know that I had. Well, I kind of knew that I had, but the level to which it was revealed to me that I have it kind of threw me off, which is why I was stuck on the fact that I don't see why I have to go apologize to someone who offended me. But because a part of me felt like I wanted to revenge, and I knew that revenge was coming off of pride, and I know that revenging would make them feel worse than I did. I don't know that I would have come to that, is it conviction? If I did not expose myself to different ways of learning about the Bible. So I know that social media is like, oh, it's like a highlight reel. You know, they pick and choose what they can share to clickbait, to draw your attention and be like, oh, this pastor is better than that pastor, or this priest is better than that priest. But if you have a fundamental understanding of how the word is being shared, you are not really going to follow a person. It's more like how they are helping you achieve a goal that you really want to achieve. But between that book and this conference this past Saturday, when it was over, I sat in my car for like 3 hours and I was like, okay, I'm done fighting. I feel arrested, even though I'm not resisting, I guess, conviction as much as when I read through the book the first time. When I went through the second time at this conference, I feel like I am in alignment. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah.
Okay, can I piggyback off what Maneh said on conviction and condemnation? Maneh, what you were speaking about the relationship, right? I think is what you're looking for. My definition for what I understood just based on this conversation right now is that intimacy with God, that relationship with God. That's what you're looking for. That the Catholic Church may or may not be given to you. So I don't think it's necessarily bad, because if you have an opportunity to read the book of Hosea, like God talks about that he seeks intimacy from us. That's his biggest thing, that he wants like a husband and wife relationship with us. But I had to look at it because when they talk about, I was like, okay, what really is conviction, right? If you look at the definition of conviction itself, it says it's like a firmly held belief or opinion. And condemnation is condemning someone to punishment or strong disapproval of something. So usually conviction is from God. Conviction comes from God. It's supposed to bring you joy. It's supposed to force you to change something. It's like you're doing something right. Conviction is going to be like, okay, maybe I really shouldn't be doing that. It should make you want to change your attitude. Condemnation, on the other hand, it's from the devil. Condemnation is like, oh my God. Condemnation makes you feel overwhelmed. It makes you feel tired. It makes you feel, there's like a contrasting difference. Like conviction is God is telling you that, Maneh, something is missing. I need you to change something. Condemnation is the devil said, listen, yeah, you have it there. It's just do this thing. See, you do this thing like that, it will get you. That's condemnation. So we clickbait and social media. I always say, in terms of the question specifically that AK asked, we also move in churches, right? One thing that John Bevere mentioned in the book was, I don't remember what chapter, so correct me if I'm wrong. He moved from one church to another because a pastor he did not have a good relationship with his head pastor. They were doing something that was not aligned with what he originally signed up for. So he moved to another church, but he felt condemnation. It was not conviction, because God did not let him do that. He went on his own accord. He had offense. So when he got to that other church, the reason he defined that it was condemnation was because the same overwhelming feeling he had and feeling, oh, XYZ, he had the same feeling with this new set of people. So he had to go back to his original church and then he prayed and God said, it's because it was not from me. You had an offense in you. There was something in your spirit that the devil fueled that thing and said, okay, that's it, and you move. However, because you're convicted now, you came back on your own accord and decided to change. And you had a conversation with the pastor, like XYZ, this is what's going on. And you guys' relationship and the message that I want you to get, it came to you. So I always say there's something like, even it just doesn't apply to church. I'm just thinking with us individually, right? When you're convicted about something, it's gonna make you change for real. If God is speaking to you, praying about something, it's gonna make you want to move. It's gonna make you want to. It's gonna make you want to change something about your life. However, if God is not telling you to do that, it's most likely not from Him. They say God will make you heal. It's like you listen to Him, right? He's gonna tell you, I need you to do it. I don't need you to do that. However, when the devil is talking to you, there's just this feeling that comes with there. You're like, this does not feel right there. But the action is very sweet. It's I don't know, it's serving this anger that I have in me. It's gonna make me, I'm gonna show this other person. But yeah, spirit is still heavy. So I just had to pick your boy, like it was that particular question, that part in the book. I'm like, oh wow, that speaks to you. So the story, right, Maneh, that you just explained, I was like, that's perfect. That was God convicting you that He wants you to form that relationship with Him. So I don't think you necessarily have to move to another church to say that, but I think that prayer, you're doing exactly what He wants you to do. That's why you feel the way you are and you're where you are. That's it. I sounded like a preacher now. Let me say goodbye. This book will do something to you. Oh God.
Yeah, there's a part of the book where he discusses the part where he told a story that somebody left the church or from one town and went into another town, and then they asked him that how was it over there, bashed it, and the person answered them that yeah, you're gonna feel the same energy here, and then the
Yes.
person came, asked them, and they gave good reviews about there and said, okay, yeah, it's here. You're gonna find the same, you're gonna find the same here, right? It's just for me, it gave me that sense of one, be aware of where you're coming from and where you're going and how translating the message, and two, not everything that glitters gold, right? It's like just because that the grass was greener over there does not mean no, just because the grass was not green over there does that mean it's going to be green over here. It's all about your perspective to it, right? How again, like you're convicted to how God convicts you into viewing your position. And most of all, too, is, man, the church is where you find the most sinners. You know what I mean? So if you go into some thinking that, oh, yeah, here you're going to find righteous folks. Oh, yeah, you're going to find, people who will push you to, salvation, man, think again, because you don't know what pit you're falling into. You don't even know if you're the person who is supposed to go lift everybody in the up anyways. You know what I mean? So that was one thing there. But let me turn this back to Terez. You spoke about forgiveness. And yeah, I will keep digging in there because I feel like you haven't really, said everything there, but forgiveness, right? Being the angry kid, I should say, what did forgiveness like? I mean, no, forgiveness is both freeing and challenging. Freeing in the sense that once you're able to let go of it, which is challenging too, but once you finally let go of it, you are really free, right? Um, how did you really struggle to forgive that person? Like, what is it that you really had to do to say, oh, you know what, I'm really free of this? It's condemnation. Look, I'm using my words.
I know, right? Kudos. How do I put this? I had to forgive someone who was not there physically. I had no access to, number one. Number two, I had to forgive a person who, in my opinion, really did not care about the consequences of their actions. Number three, I had to forgive a person who didn't even know that that's how much damage they done to me. So it was on all layers just wrong. And the way I had to do that was just to actually let it go. And if you've met me, that is really not my strong suit. I cling on for dear life. to everything. So that was not, it was not the easiest thing for me to do, right? That was just it. I had to wake up and decide that I've had enough. And I don't want this person having so much power over me. And I don't know if you know this, but do you understand how much if someone wreaks havoc on your life, but you can see them on their jolly way going and living their best life? Yeah. And it's funny because my whole life, I am not a stranger to betrayal. And I'm talking about betrayal that comes and turns your whole world upside down. Right. I've experienced that throughout my life, from a kid to all the way up, right? And sometimes I did have a bone to pick with God because I was like, this can't be it. And then the one person that I found solace and safe with died early. And so I just had a bone with God. Like, I was just so angry. I was like, this was the one place where I could feel seen. I felt loved. I felt hurt. I was like, okay, at least. Like, then why did you have to take this person from me? And so I was so mad after that. It just didn't help. But I'd say this, throughout the years, right? There's this, like with every encounter I have with offense, I get to learn something from it, right? I learned then younger, like sometimes you have to let it go, and that will take a piece of you, and it really does. And then another time I had to learn, there's this passage in the Bible that says that God makes it rain on the just and the unjust. When I read that, because I was ready for blood, right? And then, but there's a reason why the Bible says God told the Israelites, vengeance is mine. Because the same way that I'm looking at what this person does or has done to me, like, okay, you then uprooted my life and you've done all these terrible things to me, right? Just the same as probably a lie I told Barbara is uprooting her own life. And so it had to put things in perspective for me that, yes, humanly looking at things, some things are bigger than others, but it boils down to the same thing, how it makes somebody else's feel. And so if I am so heated in asking God, like, why would someone hurt me this bad and yet they prosper? Like, this is not making any sense to me. On the other hand, I had to look at it and say, I have hurt people too, maybe not to the same degree, but does that mean that I don't deserve to prosper? Like, at the end of the day, God is supreme. Let's put it that way. He is supreme. It's his universe. We just live in it, right? But each scenario that I have let offense go has been different. In the end, is what I'm trying to get to. Sometimes you just decide to let go. You wake up every day, you look in the mirror, you cry and you say, I let this go. Other times it would be a scripture and you talk. Sometimes it would be talking to a person and telling them that, you know what, you may not get this now. I'm sure you don't give two flying fucks about this, but I forgive you for myself. So it's just been different at every stage, I would say, if that answers your question.
I mean, when I look at, the continent of Africa, for example, or even the world at that, I look at some of our leaders. Do you know about the offenses that they cause to their people? And I think that, man, if God was supposed to be striking down people who cause offenses, then our leaders will go first. But then most of them are still alive. Heck, the world where we come from, that guy be ruling for 30-something years now, causing all these things and still there. My point being that, I don't know. I mean, after reading this book, which I still have to go back again and read and really read it and really hound on most of the examples that were given into it without the words distractions, which again bait or Satan. Satan was distracting me from getting ordered. You know, how I can't help but say this, man. As much as God requires me to forgive all and forget, I just cannot. Because there's just certain things that I just cannot forget. I'm sorry to say, not that I can forgive, but I just cannot forget in the sense that, yeah, just once bitten, twice shy, and yeah, some people you just can't leave you can't remove your eye from them because the minute you do, they'll strike you down again in some way, shape, or form that will be even worse than before. So yeah, but with that said, that's
Listen, no, before you continue, I don't know where it's saying the Bible that forgive and forget. It says forgive for 77 times, 77 times. I did not see forget in that passage.
okay. Then we're good. Then we're good. Then that's it. Yourself.
I just think we add that forget in the back there to make it sound sweet, but these are core memories that we make. So there's something cannot uproot your life and you think you forget in a hurry. But I think the thing that we should forget is the pain that it causes. You can never forget that experience. If you forget that experience, you're gonna do it again because it's wiped off your memory, right? But I think it's to forget the pain that it caused and not the event itself.
True. Barbara, scriptures. You've been quoting a lot of scriptures here, discussing a lot of scriptures here. So
I thought this was Aziz.
question, I'm telling you, this question might as well go to you. He uses a lot of scriptures to support his arguments within the book. Do you agree with his interpretations? Why not?
See, there was one of them. The funny thing, you asked a question, right? There was a scripture that he said at the end of the book. I did not agree with what he said. I'm like, that's not what he says. That's not what he means. But I cannot remember it. And I have a feeling like I was so funny because I was just like, I had a conversation with even the Holy Spirit. I said, Holy Spirit, did you remove that from my body for a reason? Because you wanted me to get that particular point. I cannot remember it for the life of me because there was one particular one he said at the end. I'm going to find it. I just have to re-listen to it. I cannot remember the scriptures, but everything else that he said, his explanations and everything aligned with his reason. And often there's this funny thing that they say when you read the Bible, right? Terez, aka Maneh, all four of us can read the same passage, right? Terez is gonna get something completely different from me. AK is gonna get something, and all four of us are gonna have like a completely different message from it. And I learned that from Bible study. Like that's how I got to learn it. Like I'll read something, right, and then I have this interpretation, and I'll read that. I'm like, oh, hold on now. Okay, I did not see that. But that's how it came to them. And so his reasoning with the examples that he was given in it did align with his message. It did make a lot of sense. Like he's like, this is what it says. Especially, I think when he read the book of Joseph. I haven't read Genesis when he explained Joseph's story. Joseph's story, I don't know if we're gonna get to it, but it was just so when they say the definition of somebody had offense. Joseph had offense in him, right? And I cannot wait to read the book of Genesis just so I can see what he was talking about. Like when you listen to this, the way he described the passages and everything else, I'm like, Joseph was a man that could have turned and said he was offended with God, but he did not. He had trust, he had faith, and he was so convicted that the dream that God gave him was going to come to pass, and it did. And no matter where he was, he could have been angry, but he did not. He's like, you know what? You put me here for a reason. We're going to see it. And so I did, just based on whatever he was preaching, right? The passages aligned with that. It was just this one that it did not align. What he said, it did not align.
Now I need you to find it.
I have to know. I'll come back and tell you just offline. I will. We can do a reread. Like when we read it, I will bring it up just so the listeners can know. But it was one of them because I think I read the book That's why, and I had a completely different, I read the entire book, I had a completely different interpretation of that particular phrase. And the things I cannot remember it, because I remember it because it's either a prayer point that I used to pray, but it just is wiped out of my memory.
I've actually read that Joseph story. So when he was telling it, I was like, yeah, Joseph, he had the extra strength, child and all come to different levels, right? He had it. And not all of us have that. There's some days at work, there's this song that it says we all need more Jesus. And some days I just need more Jesus because in my own strength, I cannot handle that. I have this Haitian coworker. The way that we greet ourselves is I'll tell him, stay out of trouble. There is not enough bail money in the black community because you do something and you end up in jail. We don't have enough money to bail you. And he would tell me, you look good in orange, but not behind bars because things will push you, right? And in healthcare, you have to be careful what you say because it's customer service, right? So it's, yeah, some days you need just a little bit more Jesus. And on the subject of forgiveness, right? For me, the way that I learned to forgive was after an experience I had in 2015. And I was waiting for this person to come to come admit what they did and then ask for forgiveness. Nope, it didn't happen. So I got into therapy because my mind was like, okay, if I can't get this forgiveness, then because there's this one verse, I don't know if it's a verse or a thing, it says love your neighbor as yourself, treat people the way that you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
I hold that verse so close to me to the point that if I'm going to do or say something, my thought is always, how would I feel if someone did that to me? Now, if somebody does something to me that I feel like, wait, they didn't think about that before they did that. So if they can dish that out, then they can handle it. So how would it be like if I gave them a taste of their own medicine? But I had a therapist that told me that this whole idea of looking for closure in the person who offended you doesn't always apply. Because, for an example, they may never apologize, or they may never admit, they may never apologize, or even if they admit and apologize, the way that they do it may not meet your expectations, so it might actually hurt you more. And this whole idea of looking for closure in the person who hurt you, you are the one to give yourself closure, and there are so many ways you can do it. So you can figure out your role in the outcome and say, okay, this is what not so much owning the outcome, but figuring out if I didn't do X, Y, Z, maybe this outcome will not happen. So figure out your own role in the outcome, even if it might just be 1%, because this is how, when you forgive yourself, then it doesn't really matter if the other person apologized or not. So that's how I have come to not hold grudges, because it's like you're holding a coal in your hand, waiting to throw it at somebody, but then you're getting burnt.
There was something that he said in the book that is reference to what you and T said. An example. Remember when he went to Asia to preach, and then there was this Asian lady that she said that she kept praying, she had converted, but she kept asking God to visit her. Like, I want you to reveal yourself, come to me. But no matter how much she prayed, God wasn't visiting her. She's never felt the Spirit of God. And so he's like, okay, let's pray. And when he prayed, she discovered that she had this offense in her from years ago. And when AK said, do I have to forget? So she said, when they asked him, did you forgive your husband? She said, yes, I did. I'm not forgiving him. When she said something about I forgive him, he said, no, you've not. No, sorry. She said, I will never forgive him. Like, I have tried to forgive him. I have tried. I have put in the effort, but I can never forgive him. And when he explained, the woman had reasoning. And then he turned and said, there was a reason why God had not visited you. And the reason is because you have offense in your heart. You're holding this grudge against your ex-husband. Your dead ex-husband.
But there were two experiences. There was one whose husband was dead, and then there was one whose husband left and got married to somebody else.
Yes, that was the one. The one that when I got married to was a testimonial.
Okay.
That was a testimonial that when I got married to somebody else. And then she said she when she read the book, it allowed her to forgive him because what he did was horrible, but she had to forgive him because whatever she did brought into her relationship, which somehow it linked to the example AK gave earlier with the people, the example he gave about you coming, the two groups that came and met the wise men, and the wise men asked them the experiences in another town, and they gave them two different answers. And he said, whatever you said is how you're going to experience it. And then he used the example like, because you have that in you, whatever you experience, that you carry it into a relationship, into a friendship.
Yeah.
Like when we, it's like we do it not consciously, subconsciously, you carry that energy into it and it messes it. And that was that lady. The lady that did not forgive the husband who cheated. She thought she had forgiven him or moved on, and she was waiting for the man to come forgive him. But it affected her current relationship that she was in because she carried that energy and pain and brought it into it, and it was about to scatter. So I guess the point I was leading to it to forgiveness is a lot of the time forgiveness tends to hold us back on a lot of things that we're not even aware. Like it's not even in, like you're thinking like, oh yeah, I mean, we're cool though. We're cool. Oh, I know I've said that. I know for sure that I've said that we're cool. But now we ain't, because I still want to rip up your head. And to me, specifically, this book and forgiveness, it spoke to me because, as I said, I have a weakness that I fully know is something I'm aware that I started off this year, and I said I was going to pray until God, it happens to me. I will hold a grudge. It's a bad habit. I'm aware of it. I actively work towards it, but I will not tell you, but I will just hold it and I'll convince myself that I have forgiven you, but it's still in my heart and it actually weighs me down. Like really, it's exhausting. And so when I read this book, it's like he was speaking to me in that sense. Like I said it before the beginning of the recording, I have a problem letting go. You have to let go. Because I will forgive and said I'll move on, but because I'm still hanging on. T said earlier, you're hanging on not to the pain. I hang on to the pain and the memory, but I'm just supposed to hang on to the memory. So it teaches me 2 + 2 next time. So I should have sense, because the book of Proverbs does tell you that you keep that memory in your head just so you know not to do XYZ in the future. And so I think for me, in terms of forgiveness, that was a bit I need to let go. And this book actually showed me the consequences of not letting go. Yeah.
Like an experience I had, like I've had a different friendship where through the years it's just been slowly draining. And my prayer to God was, if I am the one who is draining this relationship, then take me out of it. And surprisingly, things just started happening, and things were being revealed. So earlier this year, that person had a birthday. I was laying on the bed, reading a book. And then I heard, send this person a birthday gift. I jumped out of bed. I'm like, for what? And I did not hear any answer. So I went 3 days without it. And it was uneasy. So I sent the birthday gift anonymously because my pride is like, it was on high. Pride still is, but not as much as before the book and before this conference this past week. But my prayer now is, if you really want me to apologize, give me the script. Because I know that I would want to make it ugly before I apologize, and it's not necessary. I know that, but that is where I am right now. So I'm working on it. I need more Jesus.
Maneh, you have to understand one thing though, that with obeying instructions like that, one thing that I've known is not more so the action, it's the step towards it. It's the obedience towards it, right?
Yes.
And I'll tell you this for sure. God may not even give you a script.
No.
He may not. Just to see how much you can summon yourself to make that bold action. Because it would, and I wish that things things were easier than they actually are, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna forgive you. Give me the words, I'll go. That's easy to do. But what do you do when you don't have the words for it, or you don't even know how to go about it? There's something that I learned recently, and I was just trying to calm my mind, and I was baking. And then it's like, baking the instructions that I was reading the recipe and everything, and it just dawned on me. The next step in this recipe is based on the last step that I made. And I was like, wait a minute now. No, I was like, it can't be right in my face like this. It's like, yeah, you can't just look at the whole list and go, oh, bake at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. No, you cannot. Your next step is based on how much you obeyed that last instruction in the recipe. And I just sat there with my whole goods, and I was just like, well, this is not what I was looking for. I was just trying to settle my mind. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I need to go back to the drawing board and start paying attention to those little steps that I should be making, those intentional steps. Because you can't skip it. The results are going to vary.
Yep. So I'm patiently waiting for the next step, because the last step I did not obey 100%. I fought it 3 days. I sent the gift, but I sent it anonymously. So I did not want to be identified, because to me it felt like it was me extending an olive branch. Why should I be the one extending an olive branch? You offended me. But yeah, so I partially obeyed, but like I said, grace. I just need more grace and strength for whatever the next step is. So
I mean, in terms of, everything that you guys are mentioning, going back to, what was the thing you had mentioned, Maneh? Looking for closure. Yeah, there you go, closure. I don't know. God gifted me the spirit of forgetting. I forget things a lot. Sometimes I'll be so mad, and then I turn around, I'm doing something, and I forget that I was even, upset in the first place. There's not till that person, brings their face, and I'm like, wait, I was mad at this person for some reason. What's the reason? And I start digging in my head, and sometimes I can't find it, so I just let it go all together. But for me, it's I just choose to just forget. Sometimes be whether I'm the offender or I'm the or I'm getting offended. You know what I mean? I sometimes just
No, offender, you cannot choose to forget. I deny that one.
choose to forget.
You do, but I'm like, nah, that ain't right.
I mean, one thing is I'll give myself grace. You feel me? I'll give myself grace. Sometimes sometimes I look at it as, yeah, let's all just move on. I beg. God got us. You know what I mean? Because sometimes having a conversation can be so draining. Just the thought of it can be draining. And I'm like, yeah, forget it, man. I'm not about to do this. I'm not about to do this. And most of all, yeah, forgive to say I'm sorry. You might as well come and take on my one hand. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Come and take it. I'll freely give you one hand than to just remove those two little words out of my mouth. It's not a pride thing per se. Might be, but
It is.
it is a pride thing.
It's just,
and I'm saying that because I've been there, especially when you offended me. Those words are not coming out of my mouth unless it's grace. Like,
no, but okay, though, let's go back to that definition of showing yourself grace. You know that ain't showing yourself grace.
What is it?
You're giving yourself a pass. If you are not willing to face the issue head on, you can't give yourself a pass and say you give yourself grace. That ain't how it works.
Well, to you, it's not, right?
No, not to me. Grace, the whole point of grace is there should be an intentional action towards the thing, right? You cannot just because something would make you feel uncomfortable and then you sit there and be like, well, this will make me uncomfortable. I give myself grace. We move on. Nah.
That person uncomfortable, man. You know what I'm saying? Because I did like Maneh said, it's like you'll be looking for something that you might not get from here. You feel me? And I might approach it a different way that you might not understand it. And I'm not about to sit there and try to find the words that you necessarily want to hear. I say that because sometimes even I myself, I don't want to approach certain things because I know for a fact I'm looking for something. And this person is not about to understand where I'm coming from, where I'm trying to go with this. So I'm gonna just let it go and move on. You know what I mean?
No,
Just
but see,
I
that's
think
the
that
other
only
end. That's the other end of it, though, because sometimes it would not come in the form that you want it to, or you will not be able to. Now, don't go in there and half-ass it. You understand what I'm saying? But if you're genuine and it is your method, sometimes even when you are the offender, you don't, once you make that step, you don't even need a response back. You don't need them to say, okay, I heard you, I forgive you. Your part is to own up to what was done, deliver it. That's your part. Then you can show yourself the grace. Your part is not to sit, as long as you're genuine and you do it in your way. That's not your part is not the other, how the other person responds if you do it genuinely.
if I'm going to make that step, if I'm going to make that step, I need to feel it in that same in that way. However you are saying it is very opposite from how I want to feel it. However you're saying it, and most times, be it pride or not, I'm just not equipped. I'm not equipped myself to deal with certain things like that. I just rather just say, you know what, forget this, and everybody move on in peace. Whether I'm moving on in peace or I'm moving in peace, this point is none of my business. You know what I mean? I just know that life continues like a river flowing. It just keeps flowing and going.
You have a trail of offenders behind you.
And that's
Okay, I think that if the other person wants to talk about it, at least give them a chance. Because the reason why I came to the or with the help of a therapist, I came to the conclusion that you really don't get closure from the other person is because I wanted it, but the other person was not giving it. So I had to figure out a different way to get it. So yeah, so if somebody approaches you and they're like, okay, this thing that you did, can we talk about it? You may not want to talk about it, but at least hear them out.
yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it would be nice to hear them out, let them air it out,
This guy.
let them get out their system, things like that. But to be honest with you, sometimes I just don't have the patience for it. Because it's like, I just want you to get to the point. All these constructs, all these different roads, just get to the point. Now, when you start doing all this all this other, now I start getting agitated. You know what I mean? And it will just make the conversation a lot harder than it's supposed to be. But that's a me thing. So I just avoid it altogether and just let it be. And I just tell myself, it is what it is.
Don't be the reason why someone's on there crying and sitting on a therapist chair because you just didn't want to do what you needed to do. And I know that before you say, I don't care, we have moved on, I have moved on, but just don't be that person.
The Bible actually tells you that just be cognizant of other people's feelings. It actually tells you literally that you have to be mindful of the other person, not just yours.
Oh, no man except the depth of love. That's what the Bible says.
If people like us don't do what we do, therapists will be out of a job.
Good excuse.
Okay.
They'll be out of a job. So stuff. But anyways, in the spirit of grace, the spirit of grace and the spirit of, starting to read the Bible and understand things in different ways. I try, but I'm not gonna lie. I have to get out of my own self to always see people coming. When they start, I just avoid and take a different road and just be going because sometimes I don't really have the patience to sit there and talk about things, And secondly, too, is like in my history of talking about things, once I'm done talking about a thing with somebody, 9 out of 10 times, that's the end of that encounter. I don't think after that relationship will go further. So, yeah.
Right, so how do you address unresolved issues? You just
I
don't.
really don't. I really truly don't. It's just
Mm.
what under the rug, just keep it moving. If it's
Yes,
something
sir.
if it's something I gotta say, I just state it right there. However you take it is however you take it, not my problem. And I just
Mm.
Yo, I keep thinking, can you imagine the conversation AK's guardian angel be having with God every morning? Like, listen, I'm coming in. See, you see him like this. Just baby steps. And we're walking with him just smooth. You see, his guardian angels be having like a huddle, money huddle. All right.
Just say we thank God for grace, please. Grace is a very powerful thing. We should
no,
just be using it accordingly.
I've learned to be silent and in action. I've learned to just be silent and just watch. And sometimes when people speak, they air out whatever it is that they gotta air out. I just be quiet. When they're done in my head, I'm like, as the microwave goes zzz, and then ding, yeah, I'm like, ding, they're done. Okay, talk to you later. I'm gone. You know.
Okay,
Oh,
if it's been working for you, I guess it works.
yeah, man. The good part when I sleep, I don't dream. I don't remember things. So you know, so I've been thinking that I'm sitting and that thing is keeping me up at night. Oh no, no, no. I only wake up in the morning and go, okay, where did I leave off? And then continue from there. But when I'm going I go to sleep as peaceful as I came into this world because I don't know if it's my day to go. So I cannot be going with, carrying heavy bags with me. No, I gotta go empty-handed.
Peace.
not,
Wherever
not
you're going, there's peace.
Not me praying right now that I need that. Lord grant me that grace just to numb it out. Don't think about it. Don't have to just I need that.
Look,
So I mean,
I see it this way, right? This is how I see it. This is how I see it. There is there are people out there that kill people. You know what I mean? There are people that are out there that kill people. What have I done that amounts to that? But then again, sin is a sin. It doesn't matter how big it is, it doesn't matter how small it is. So at the end of the day, if I've offended somebody, let me say this again, look at the camera, right? If I've offended somebody, you, him, she, it, they, I don't know what your pronouns is these days. If you don't come and tell me, say I don't offend you, now 10 times I'm not even thinking that has happened. Because the way I see it, c'est la vie. You know what I mean? It is life. And yeah, it's life. So if you don't say it, then you will not offended. If you're offended, you will say it. Same as if I'm offended, I'll say it. If I was not, zip it and keep it moving. But then again, you got to pick your battles. So, I applaud myself every day for picking my battles. And yeah.
nah, you gotta there's something that they say, you gotta walk in the love of God. You have to walk in the love of God. The love of God is a freedom to a lot of things, man.
Right.
Just you gotta walk in the love of God. It is gonna change a lot of things. You see this? Like you need to
What does that look like?
to walk in the love of God.
What does that look like?
We are
I
all a
mean,
work in progress, so my dear.
everybody's a work in progress. Love of God, it comes with a lot of forgiveness. You give people grace. You see the whole, if I offend you, if you don't come and tell me, no, it will allow you to, if you offend somebody and you have that spirit and discernment, you know. You don't even need to wait. Sometimes you don't need to wait for the person to come tell you. You'll be like, okay, it will teach you how to approach situations. It will teach you to give people more grace. It will give you a lot more patience and understanding, empathy. It will give you the love of it's like a massive thing. Umbrella. I don't even know how to describe it myself
Yeah, I
because
think there are
it's something
limits.
I'm still learning.
You
So
know,
that's how I
Honest,
use it sometimes. The limits.
there are limits to it. That's to say, they walk in the love of God, right? It tells you that you have to be like Jesus, like you have to walk how He does and do the things. But I am not. You will tell you as a human being, like I'll be like, I'm like Terez, piss me off. I'm like I am not you, Lord. I cannot just sit quiet because your word tells me to forgive and sit quiet and just let it go. Let it go. It's like sometimes just let it go. I am not you. I do not think like you. I do not have your grace. I do not have your spirit. I do not have that zeal. It's a constant fight. So to walk in the love of God is not something easy to do, but it does set you from a lot of freedom. That I know. It will
But you
give
know
you.
what I love about Jesus, though? He was both what, human and spirit. Is that how they call it? Like, there's this experience of him flipping tables.
The synagogue.
In the
Okay,
synagogue.
so sometimes we're gonna flip tables, and then you just, try not to flip them as often or as frequent as, because I feel like humans will push you.
That's what we do.
That's where boundaries come in,
Maneh, what was the concept behind why he was flipping the tables?
And yeah, I don't know, but he flipped the tables.
And there was something behind. See, don't
I mean, I know
don't be like these pictures that be picking one scene.
I mean, I remember the story, but there is this one meme that cracked me up, right? But it still doesn't take away from the fact that, I mean, he could have passed his message without flipping tables, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. But then he flipped the tables to pass the message. So I feel that sometimes we might react instead of responding. And then you just turn around and say, well, I could have done this differently. You're better. But in this moment, this is how it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, well, a work in progress, my dear. Small. Like there's this book about, which I think that we should actually read next, boundaries, right? There is this misconception that as Christians, we shouldn't have boundaries. But the book actually gives examples of boundaries in the Bible. Like it's almost like this debate of Satan, and it's actually eye-opening. And we need that in life or in a community, because this whole ride of, I mean, it is great to walk in the love of God. But there is a fine line, because if you keep giving everybody grace, then people are going to walk all over you like a doormat. That's how abuse can get a drive to a pass. Be like, oh, I can keep doing this to you because you don't forgive me, because the Bible says forgive. But yeah, I can forgive you. I can forgive you. I say, okay, I'm gonna deal with you at arm's length. You don't have to come this close. Now, if you say you gotta pick your battle.
The thing about
I'm sorry, okay, go ahead.
Right.
Oh no, I was gonna say the walk in the love of God is actually in the book. He referenced Philippians 1:9-11, when he talks about that your love may abound still more and more in knowledge and all discernment, that you may approve the things that are excellent, that you may be sincere and without offense till the day of Christ, being filled with the fruits of righteousness, which are by Jesus Christ, is the glory and praise of God. And his reasoning was because that when you walk in the love of God, it's not for you. It's because it frees you from the bait of Satan. That's why he's like, you walk in the love of God. It frees you from the trap Satan sets. It frees you from everything else. Because I think one thing he agrees, one thing the book, maybe I understood that he agrees that we all have these temptations, like Maneh described. It allows people to walk over you. It just makes people mistreat you and do a certain, like, treat you a certain type of way that it doesn't feel good. Like it pushes you to be in the synagogue and flip tables. But his reasoning is because that is the trap that is set by the enemy. And the Bible literally tells you that Satan's goal is to pull you from a pedestal that God put you on. That is his primary goal, which is the book that AK referenced earlier, Job. He wanted to pull him down from that pedestal. That's why he did the things that he did, and he'll create scenarios to do that. So John Bevere's reasoning is that when we walk in the love of God, those traps that Satan sets does not affect you. Romans tells you that if you resist the devil, he'll flee away from you. He'll flee from you. I think it's from Romans, if I'm not mistaken. The book of Romans, that if you resist the devil, he will flee from you. So if he keeps setting those, when you walk in the love of God, those little traps that he sets, it's not enticing to you. It's like, and so he will eventually leave you alone. And those baits, it doesn't affect you anymore. So that's the reason behind that. But it's not an easy walk though. Let's just put that out there.
All I know is I'm not Jesus. And
What you say? What you say?
All he knows is that he's not Jesus.
So,
We have to live Christ-like life. You just wake up every day and keep trying. It's small, small. It's not. The race is not for the one. What did they say? It's for the
This
sweet.
is not for the swift.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
Oh,
all me, I
Let's
want
help.
to know is the conversation that AK's guardian angels be having every morning. So I just make a plan like, let's talk.
you
They
be
say they say rain falls on all of us, right? So all of us are getting revenge
you be
somehow.
having a very valuable conversation. You'll be surprised, you know. But the thing here is this, right? The thing here is this, right? Most people can sit and see, that, oh, AK offended them, but they will not see how they had to push me to offend them, or they do not think that they offended me first for me to offend them. You know what I mean? So most times my own justification will come from there. And even if it's me praying to Mary to intercede to me, I mean for me to Jesus and all that, and the archangels to go and
Okay, look at me. Look at me. This your angel right now. This is your angel right now.
my angel, but no, my angel
He's recruiting other people to help him out.
angel cannot be like that.
I'm just playing, but
Angel was I stand like this, with his chin held up like, man, this guy AK, we're 50-50-ish. We have to do something side. On the rest, I have the reward. But man, we digress, and we're running out of time. So, what are some key lessons you've taken away from the bait of Satan, Maneh?
Um, hmm. Key lessons. Obedience, right? Obedience is a very powerful. It's not an easy thing, but it's a very powerful thing because this whole idea of hearing from God, right? I thought it was a foreign concept until there's this book I read. No, listen, Conversations with God. It's a 3-volume book. I think I listened to it to AK. It gave me a different perspective of interacting with God, because prior to, what year was that? 2018. My concept of talking to God was you had to, be down on your knees, hands together, as a Catholic, sound the cross and all of that. But that book opened my mind so you could just be going through your day and just having a conversation with God. But I always thought it was one way, it's me just talking to God. Then 2021, out of some kind of frustration, I was like, God revealed to me something about this situation. And I really wasn't expecting an answer as quick as I got it. So that book, that experience, and then this book is I did not know how the depths of the impact of holding on to. I don't know if holding a grudge and feeling offended is the same thing. Because like I said, I don't feel like I hold grudges, but I've had experiences that I felt. I probably 2 or 3 experiences that, like I said, I don't get offended easily. But when I do, it's a wrap, I'll literally ask God, like, is this relationship worth salvaging? And I really heard, no, your season with this relationship is done. So take this experience and move on to the next one. So it's all about, the block between you and God with the whole thing of offense. And, the one that I'm still struggling with, but not as much as before, is, apologizing to someone who offended you. So I think that's my biggest lesson. How do I apologize to somebody that offended me? Because it's not like I reacted towards them in a negative way. I just stepped back. I'm like, well, if I'm not this much in your life, then you can't keep offending me, right? I'm not sharing parts of my life with you so that you don't have that information to use against me or that information to offend me. So, That's how I addressed it. I did not exchange words, which I sometimes feel like I could. But yeah, that's my biggest lesson. Offense.
Nice, nice, nice. Terez, what practical steps or actions will you take to apply the principles of this book to your life? And how would you hold yourself accountable?
Hmm. I think intention to be intentional, and I know that that word has been, it's now almost a cliche, but intentionality can never be overemphasized, right? Because the thing that would entrap you would be familiar to you, right? And sometimes I will go as far as say that it would be comforting. But I have to be intentional with my dealings, right? With how I feel and how I react and how I respond to be able to make sure that, I'm not, that seed is not planted. Because if I would be lying if I go around and say, oh, no, you're not going to be offended, or you're not going to carry a grudge, or those are normal human experiences, in my opinion, right? But where the problem comes is if that seed, if you let that seed sow and then it starts bearing the fruit of it, then we have a problem. But you will go through, I will go through life hurt. I would go through life wanting to fight people and scratch your eyeballs out. But um, I have to be intentional when thoughts like that come through my mind or emotions like that start whirling up within me to say, okay, watch out now. This is looking like a setup. Just be careful. Take a minute. Take a break. Set boundaries. Um, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And Barbara, briefly, how can the message of this book benefit those outside Christian faith or spiritual community?
So the entire book, The Bay of Satan, right? It talks about offense. The entire book preaches about offense and things that we have to do. And the objective or the main goal of offense is the end. You have to reconciliation. That's where it's heading to. He's preaching and tells us that we have to reconcile to be able to let go of those things for you to receive the gifts that God, or the plan for you to see the purpose that God has for your life, right? And to me, one of the biggest things, it comes at the end of the book. I said chapter 2 resonated with me because it talked about agape love. And I was wondering why that stuck with me. It's because at the end, for me to get reconciliation, or for me to give that reconciliation or have the gift, I have to have God's love. I have to have God's love to be able to do that. And when I have God's love, I can reconcile, I can let go of that offense. And I'll be able to see the purpose that He has for me, the way He wants me to go, the path that He has set for me. Pretty much, I think He mentioned Romans 8:23 that nothing can separate you from the love of God. And the love of God pretty much is the key to the freedom for everything. So if you can have that and you can love the way God's love without expecting anything, that pure kind of love that you're serving God, it will allow you, when you're offended, when you have that offense, it's going to prompt you to go through reconciliation, even if it means, despite the fact that all of us were fighting it here, because even I was fighting it, that I have to be the one to go tell the person that pissed me off that I am sorry for holding a grudge against them. There's a reason. It's because it allows you to feel, and the only way I can get to that point is if I understand God's love. So I think that's the biggest message we can get from this book, the biggest message we can apply in a Christian life. I think love heals everything. I'm one of those people. I believe that if you show love in every situation, it's going to change a lot of things. So at the end of the book, that's the biggest message that I think we should all, as Christians, because all of us here are Christians, we can apply in our day-to-day life. So
Okay. Okay. Dope. Any closing remarks as we, round up this of Satan? Wish Nelly and Nora were here. Get their perspective, being that they read the book as well on this, but we'll catch them on the next one for sure. Any closing remarks? I'm
I
not
think
going.
that everybody should read the book. Everybody on planet Earth.
Yeah,
Because it opens your eye to a lot that you did not think was a big deal.
It does. It does. It applies both to Christians and non-Christians. If you're an atheist, if you read the book, the parts about the book that's going to apply to you. If you're a Christian, I do believe you'll be convicted when you read it. It's going to read to you. There's something about the book that's going to speak to a specific part of your life. And it's going to make you move. You're going to change something. So I think it's an amazing read. I recommend it to a few people right off the bat. I was like, you got to read this. And the thing is that this book is it's like 20 years old, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very old book.
Yeah.
So
still working. How many years later it still
does. It has an impact on you. And I think when you're reading it, you have to be open. They say you have to allow the Holy Spirit to let you walk in wholeness. You have to increase your sensitivity to allow him to walk. And so if you invite and say, okay, God, what is it they want me to get from me? You're going to pick from it. It's a good read. Everybody should read it. It's just 200 and something pages. It's not that bad.
I think that even if you're not open, it would open you.
It would.
It's just that. It's just you think 200 pages is not bad for some people. Have you ever tried giving them 10 pages to read and see what happens?
And I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say just a 5-hour listen. I listened to it like in a day and a half. But
yeah, it's an audio book. You can read it too.
On your reading level, it might not be an easy or a short read for, but it's a book that
you people forget that you're in a book club for a reason, and those people are not in the book club.
So yeah, that's the thing.
Talking about it's a 5-hour.
Yeah, but if that is the only book you read in your entire life, it's going to be worth it.
Thank you. See, like if you tell somebody that I want you to read this book, there's a reason, right? That you tell them, I need you to read this book because it's
even if you don't want to read the book, read the reviews. And if the reviews convict you to read the book, then go ahead and read it. Because there are like almost 18,000 reviews on the book, and was it Amazon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why you gotta lose weight. There's a reason, right? But we didn't actually go and lose the weight.
I was about to say, you people don't know how reading is hard.
It is.
They have not finished reading small caption on Instagram. It's 260 page. They'll come
and the thing that's really killing us is all these statuses are like 30 seconds. Send somebody something that's more 30 seconds, but it's 7 seconds. They're like swipe. It's a sad generation, but there is this read to me aspect of what AI, which is like audible. Have it read it to you.
It's a good read. It teaches you to walk in the love of God, to respect your fellow humans,
the last book we read,
give grace.
From the last book we read, when I posted it, a lot of people asked me about it. So I hope that
they always do and don't read it.
Well, the people who asked me, actually, the 2 people who asked me, I know that they read it.
That's good. That's good because they always ask.
They're usually the ones who keep asking. But yeah, I just feel like if we all just, even if it's one book every 3 months, it changes
about it. See, that's 2 people that. Oh man. But anyways, let's do closing remarks.
It's life changing.
Let's do closing remarks and then we can, jump into the nitty and gritties that other folks should know, here. But wait, have we decided what our next book is?
What was it? What was that thing you said? The 12 days of the week.
The who?
Not the 12, not the
12 week years. 12 years of a week.
12 week year.
Let me read. 12 weeks year. 12 week year.
12 week year.
12 week year.
So pretty much.
Say it again. We were rambling. Our next book is
12 week year
by by some two people.
Brian P. Moran and some other guy. You'll be here in the show notes, man. Yeah. Anyways, man. As we mentioned at the start of this recording, in this powerful and often provocative exploration, as you can see, we're arguing, we're touching people. You know what I mean? Beaver tackles the insidious issues of offense, a trap that ensnares many and can destroy relationships, communities, even our spiritual growth. With compelling blends of biblical references and personal insights, he argued that the greatest obstacle to harmony and individual progress is not the overt attacks, but the overt attacks from others, but rather the offenses we have within. So this whole entire recording has been about offenses and how he's used biblical quotes and also testimonials to show us that within the offenses that we hold, not just that from people, but the ones that we hold inside. We need to find ways to free it. And he gives plenty of examples, which we all recommend. All of us, that each and every one of you should pick up the book and read. Yeah, we know some of you don't read, but please, if you can, this will help you. Like Barbara said, if you're an atheist, pick it up and read. I don't know what good it will do for you, but I'm pretty sure that it will strike you somehow, some way, shape or form. So yeah. Anyways, man, thank you, Maneh. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Terez. And thank you, me, for reading this book and having this discussion. It was a very good one. Take what you might take from it, but do us a favor, leave a comment. If you think, we nailed it, we appreciate, your feedback. If you think we're average, we'll still appreciate your feedback. If you think we just shit the bed, no problem. Tell us how and tell us how you would have done it better. Just don't criticize and walk away like.
Read the book before you come and say that one to us. Don't bring your offense over here.
Wireless. But anyways, man, this is a book club this is a book club collab from West Central, Stuck With a Podcast. You know what I mean? Follow us on all social and streaming platforms. Subscribe to YouTube channels, for monthly notifications on book clubs. If you want to join us, feel free to hit us up individually or comment, in any of the videos or DM us on all our social platforms and we'll get you on the team. We are welcoming new members any day, anytime, provided all we require is just for you to read, you know what I mean? And yeah, that's it. Anyways, man, rumbling too much. We outie. Peace and grace. But you will need it in this reading journey. Bye.